Welcome back to the shack. Today I'm going to be going over a new machine. I've been trying to steer clear of a lot of the reviews. I've got some things going on. I've got a lot coming up with Christmas and everything around the corner. But I had a couple of companies reach out to me, one of which is Elegoo, and wanted me to try out their new laser. Now, I'm familiar with Elegoo in the 3D printing world, seen some of their machines, seen some reviews on those machines, and they seem to be pretty good equipment. So when they reached out to me about a laser, I thought, you know, why not? This one had some interesting characteristics. The price point of the machine is something that I could see someone who was wanting to get into lasers but didn't want to drop a whole lot of money right out the gate. It would be a viable machine to give you something you could create with without breaking the bank. So if that's what you're looking for, is an affordable machine that has capabilities of making some of the projects that you see on the channel, then stick around. We're going to go over this machine. I'm going to point out to you the things that I like and the things that I don't like. So we'll be right back. All right, guys, so I'm going to kind of show you a brief walkthrough of the assembly of the machine. This is it in its finished form factor. The one thing that I will say, myself and Steve both agree on this, is although the book that they send you with the machine, it's not terrible. I have seen better. It's not terrible, but they did a really good job of including an assembly video that is located on the SD card, which is going to be in one of the bags here. So if you get one of these machines, that's going to be the better option for assembly instructions. Now, this the assembly of this machine is not for those who don't want to assemble. It is a kind of an in-depth assembly. It's not terrible, but it will take you a little time to get everything put together. That's not always a bad thing, because in learning the machine, in the process of putting it together, it also enables you to be able to troubleshoot it in the event that you ever have any problems. All right, guys, the assembly, like I said, the book does an okay job, but I strongly recommend watch the video. It's a little more, it's a little clearer for you, especially if you're not comfortable with putting these things together. All the parts and screws and stuff are bagged appropriately. The book does do a pretty good job of telling you which bag of screws you're going to need. You have a total of, I think it's 8 screws on each side for holding everything together there. Total of 16. I think they give you a couple of extras. The legs, it does come with, these are the initial little stubby legs that go on there, the fixed legs. Then you have 2 additional sets of extensions that you can use to accommodate your honeycomb or rotary or whatever you're using. Once you get those put on there, the gantry then goes on. This thing's a little tricky because the 2 bottom screws, you kind of have to come through the outer chassis to get those in. So what I did is I just started the 2 top ones just to get it to hold everything still. And then once you get those 2 top ones started, you have to kind of roll the machine back and get it lined up and get the other 2 in. Here I'm just putting on that piece of acrylic that goes on the back, and we're speeding through this, guys. A little bit of wiring. The little clip that's on the frame does a pretty good job of holding the wire. You may have to kind of train it out of the workspace once you get the machine put together, but it's not all that difficult. A few little zip ties too might be a good touch. Once you get all that, it's time to get the module and air assist and all that put on there. The module's pretty simple. The wiring does stay inside the little chamber there where the fan is, so that's something you're going to be mindful of as well. And then once you get the acrylic piece put on there, it's all done, guys. Ready for smoke. That's what they're calling it. Okay. This is the 20-watt module, guys, and everything that you see on the table came in the box that they sent me. It does come with a flat roller style rotary, and I will give them props on this. Instead of having to take off belts and some weird adjustment that most of these rotaries have, this one just has a knob, and I haven't taken it apart to see exactly what's going on with the mechanics inside there, but you basically turn this knob to widen or bring the rollers closer together. It just has a standard stepper in there. It does have a connector and connects to the control board to the Y1 connector of the machine. So that's pretty neat. As long as a standard roller is what you need, then that might be something you're interested in. The machine also comes with a honeycomb. It is a steel honeycomb, does a pretty good job. Very comparable to most other honeycombs that I've used. You'll notice from the front of the machine right here that it has this orange acrylic. It detaches using magnets. Now, it is orange acrylic, and I thought that in the beginning that the purpose of the orange acrylic was as kind of a safety shield, but the model that I have and the configuration that I've got it running on, using the machine with just one of the leg extensions, and they do send you 2 additional leg extensions for the machine as well. The diode, the nozzle sticks down past this. But the other action that this actually performs as well is you'll notice on the gantry there's a little box sitting right there. Inside that box is a air filter. This is a system that they have devised to extract the smoke, filter it, and before it disperses it back into your room. Now, I will put it to you this way. This is no substitute, in my opinion. This is no substitute for an enclosure and proper ventilation. Does it help? Maybe. My testing that I've done, I'm going to say that it has definitely stopped some of the smoke, and I'll give you a closer look in a minute. I'm going to show you what the filter looks like after I've been doing my testing for the past day, but it is not 100%, so do not count on this to stop all of the smoke. If anything, maybe it reduces the amount. It does not stop it. The machine does come also equipped with an air assist, pretty effective pump. This is pretty standard for what you're used to seeing in most laser engravers these days. Provides adequate flow. They send you plenty. They send plenty of hose. Me and Steve both had extra hose, so they send plenty of that. It does have a offline controller on the front of the machine, so if you're going to be burning stuff directly from G-code, that is an option here. It's built into the face of the machine, and you can maneuver the machine however you want. It is Wi-Fi connective also, but I think that's limited to the app because the machine itself broadcasts a Wi-Fi access point to connect to. So I think that's going to be basically limited to the app. I haven't really tried running it off of Lightburn with any other application. I do run the machine. I have been running the machine with Lightburn. It works fine. I've got the video of where I connected it. It located the machine, 400 by 400 workspace. All that went well. It does have dual flame sensors on it, and I did have one little mishap. I would strongly recommend run air assist on this machine all of the time. I had one little mishap to where I had a piece of plywood that had a little bit of a flame came up and it melted my hose. It goes to the air assist. It melted the hose and had to trim that off and reattach it. Since then, I've made sure I had at least some air running with the machine and haven't had any problems. But we're going to go over some of the cut results. This is a very good engraving and cutting machine as far as the results that I've got out of it so far. So I'm going to kind of walk you over here, show you some of these features, and then we'll go through the results that I've had with the machine. And once we've covered all of that, assembly and all the parts and everything, I'll give you my final opinion as far as what I think this machine would be good at and where it would land in the world of machines as I know it. So let's move the camera over and take a closer look. All right, guys, like I said, it's got the touchscreen controller here, and you can move the machine. It has the ability to set the origin, home the machine, which this machine does not have limit switches. You actually would have to set the origin of the machine. If you wanted to do that and just work off of origin, you could, but that would require, like I said, you'd have to basically set the machine into the location that you want and call that origin. And then when you move the machine, after you move it, when you hit the home button, let me get it moved out of the way so we can show you. When you hit the home button now, it's going to go back to the origin. So That's the one limitation that I will say this machine has, is it does not have any limit switches that I have found. I've been running it basically in current position this whole time for all my testing, and it works really well. But if you're someone who, being able to operate off absolute coordinates is a must-have, then you may want to look around at some other machines, because this one, although it does a really good job and the power I think is adequate, it does not have limit switches. So this is a little cover. It comes off. It's got magnets embedded into it. The Focus has got a little kickstand that comes down. It does have dual thumb screws. You could potentially just use one or the other. I've been tightening both of them. As you can see from the fan here, and I've been running this thing, so it's a little dirty, but it's got dual cooling fans on that side of the module with a pass-through all the way. It's a pretty sizable module. It's kind of bulky. So with that size and with those dual cooling fans, that should help it run a little smoother, a little cooler than what some of the other machines do. It has the little fan right here that feeds up and out this way to the filter. The top pops off of this, and then you have the filter inside. And as I said, I can't tell you that it is getting all of the smoke, because I don't believe that it is, but it is getting some of it, obviously. It has been collecting a lot of debris in this little filter box. The machine does come with 6 of these, so as far as filter changes goes, you'll have 6 with the box if it comes the way mine did. Now, if you choose not to use this, you could just take the filter out of it and just let it run the way that it is, or you could put the filter back in it. But it comes with 6 individually packaged filters. So once you've set the focus on the machine, it's fairly simple. You would pull it into the workspace wherever your workpiece is, flip the kickstand down. You've got these 2 little thumb screws. Lower the module onto the kickstand, tighten up these 2 thumb screws, and then raise the leg back up. Once you do that, then you would just simply, if you're using the smoke system, you're definitely going to want to put this back on there. If you're not, depending on this to get rid of your smoke, that to me would be optional. It is well above the laser. So as far as protecting you from the laser light, unless you're directly above it, it's not doing much in the way of protecting your eyes the way that I've got mine set up currently. Now, if your machine's set up closer, or if you have a smaller module, then maybe it will. But the way that mine's configured, it's not really offering much in the way of eye protection. So I would definitely be careful and make sure you wear your eye protection. Which, do that anyway, anytime you're running a laser. Whether it is completely shielded or not. Just be safe. All right, guys, so I spent the better half of a day yesterday going through this machine, tested it with all the most common materials that I use here in the shack. And so I'm just going to kind of go over some of the things that I did and some of my findings with you. The first thing that I like to do when I get them put together is to check and make sure that both myself and the machine did a good job, and that the axes are calibrated within tolerances. And the way I do that is with this little pattern right here. I have found that if the belts and the wheels aren't properly adjusted, it will show on this, because I'll have intersecting lines where there's not supposed to be, or either I'll have some really squiggly lines where they're supposed to be relatively square or relatively round. So did that test, everything came out good, so I moved on to my power and speed testing. Starting off, if you're somebody that's going to be using a lot of 1/8" material, this thing blasts 1/8" material. It is a 20-watt output, so I really, if I can hide my face from the camera, I really expected it to do good on 1/8", and it did. I'm cutting this 1/8" material here up to 10 millimeters a second, and it was clean drops all the way through. No snags, no problems. So if 1/8" material is your thing, if you're going to be making earrings and stuff like that, then definitely this machine is capable of doing so. The next thing, and most everybody that watches the channel knows that I use a lot of Luon, the 4.5 millimeter Luon that I get here locally. And I will say that I'm getting really good results. I've been running 6 millimeters a second with this machine just to make sure. But as you can see, I'm getting some pretty good cuts all the way up into 7 and 8. Much past that, you start getting into some snags and some, fails to cut. But I run the air assist the whole time, and you can tell because in the engraving, it is leaving some charring, but that's because I run air assist all the time. So, but all in all, the air assist does work. I tried cutting with and without air assist. It definitely makes a big difference having it on there. So if you're gonna get one of these, you definitely wanna get the air assist with it. Another cut test that I did, same material, same basic results. Like I said, I'm getting drops all the way up into 10. I got a drop for one cut on that. But if you look at the back, up around 10, it starts getting a little hairy. So I've been staying around 6, 7 if you're feeling froggy, and it's not a real intricate job. Something that you could easily cut out and score if you needed to. I ran it on some 5mm birch plywood that I got from Lowe's, and had some pretty good results. 5mm a second. I'm getting some pretty good drops, as you can see on the back. After that, it kind of goes bad. And of course, one of the things that I look for in a machine is high-speed engraving. And by high speed, I mean being able to engrave above 200mm a second, because it does make a difference in the time that it takes to do a job. If you can run 200 to 300mm a second versus 100. And that's one thing that the machine performed really well on. This is with the interval set to 0.2, just one pass engrave. And you can see I've gotten some good color all the way up into the high reaches of that power scale. So even up to 300mm a second, at 300mm a second, I'm getting a nice browning. Now this is more, it's not as recessed as I usually like, but all the way up into like 150 to 200, I'm getting recessed burns that I would definitely consider for most projects that I do when I'm trying to get an engraved look. All right, and of course, guys, there's some things that you just can't tell from a power scale test. So I did a lot of little small projects, like some refrigerator magnets and that type of thing, just some little decorative pieces, using the Luon, using the settings that I derived from the power and speed test. And I'm just going to show you a few of those that I did. So I did this little bass here. This thing's pretty popular in our area with all the fishermen. It's just a little bass that I obtained. I think I actually purchased this one. And I use it a lot of times on coasters and stuff like that for people who have river houses or want a sign for lake, gone fishing, be back soon, whatever. So that one turned out really well. And got a little eagle and a flag here. Turned out great. And like I said, this is just 4.5mm Luon plywood, guys. I did run air assist during the engrave. I do with most machines. And then when I get through, I touch it up with a little bit of 120 sandpaper just to make sure the yellowing is gone. Got another little refrigerator magnet here. And of course, one more. But it done a really good job. I got nice cuts. That's running the 6mm a second on the cut. And I believe I ran this at 150 millimeters a second for the engrave on these. I could have went a little faster, but I wanted to make sure that I got, and you guys see if you can see it, I wanted to make sure I got a nice recessed engrave, and I did on all of those. Now, another thing that people ask me a lot of times about the machines is how will it do on photos? Now, this is just a rugged picture of a nice young man from 1984, and this was like I said, this is a scanned image, nothing special about it. So if you were to say go into your photo album and you take out a picture and you scan it or take a picture of it and you engrave it, this is about what you're going to get. Now, with a photo that was taken with a high resolution modern day digital camera, you can get a lot better results. But let's face it, guys, most of the time we're going to be using a grainy cell phone image that somebody sent you, or it's going to be an image of someone who's passed away and you don't have the ability to take a better image, and you got to work with what you got. So this is a scanned image of a picture that was taken of me in 1984, and it's burnt to regular standard Luon plywood. So that's pretty awesome for a 20-watt diode. The clarity and the realisticness of it is pretty neat. Better than I was really expecting for the machine, to be honest with you, at this price. But like I said, it done a good job. So one of the other common mediums that I get asked about a lot, of course, is going to be anodized aluminum tumblers, that type of thing. And as you can see, guys, this one was a little hot at the bottom, but this is my generic test that I do with all my machines for anodized cards. So it was a little hot at the bottom, but I was able to derive a good enough setting from that to move forward. And I went forward and did this guy. So anodized aluminum card, I got exceptionally good results. You can see that there's not a lot of lines in that one. Did get that one a bit on the hot side, so I wound up redoing it again and come up with this guy. So does a good job on anodized materials. Tried it on the lighter color with the orange and still got a good engrave. It's kind of hard to see that one because of the color of the card and the color of everything in here. But during the testing with it, guys, they sent me this little blank, and it's just a little blank stainless steel heart piece. And so I decided to check it and see whether or not it would mark. Well, to my surprise, at 6 millimeters a second, it not only did it mark, but it has also actually etched it into the material. You can actually feel where it is etched it in there ever so slightly. Now, it's not like you could do with a fiber laser, but that's pretty good results for some stainless steel with a 20-watt diode. So then I took a piece of material, and yes, guys, I may have got this a little too hot with the machine, but I took a piece of stainless just to check, and as you can see, it is definitely marking stainless steel. Way too hot, just for the record. But it does mark stainless steel. Now, this was done with a fiber, but this test power grid right here was done with this 20-watt machine, and that is in there. You can even see it all the way through to the back. It was a little hot. So yes, it will mark stainless steel and do a good job of it. You are going to need to make sure that you find the right power settings. These were too hot. Unless you had a thicker piece of material, then you could run that. All right, guys, so all things considered, the machine, like I said, without limit switches. So first of all, know that. That's one thing. If limit switches is a make it or break it type thing with you, then you may want to pass on this machine. But I will say, at the time of this video, currently, the machine's only around $500 and something. Now, I couldn't find the exact set that I have that came with the rotary, the honeycomb, and everything, but I'm sure it exists. Throw in a couple of coupons with Amazon or discounts or whatever, and it would definitely be a good machine for somebody trying to get started out. Like I said, the smoke collection, I don't think it works as well as they had intended, but it does help with some of the smoke. It is much more effective during engraving than it is with cutting. And reason being is when you're cutting with material and you're running air assist, most of the smoke is pushed down through the honeycomb, gets to the bottom of the honeycomb, and is dispersed out, which results in the little system that they have not being able to capture that smoke. However, if you're engraving, the smoke tends to stay on the surface of the material, and therefore the little vacuum setup that they've got with the shield and the fan at the end, it does a lot better job of pulling a lot of that smoke in when you're engraving. So keep that in mind. If you're planning on using this thing to do a lot of cutting, don't expect a whole lot from the smoke filter. But if you're going to be doing mostly engraving, you might have pretty good luck with it. But then you also got to consider that you have the renewable items that you're going to have, which is going to be the filters for the setup. So those are some things that I think you need to consider when looking at the machine. As far as it working, it's lightweight, easy to maneuver, easy to set up. It did come with the model that I got, the set that I got, came with everything I needed to go ahead and start making projects with it and doing some pretty good work. Power output, engraving speed, everything out of the box without me having to tweak the controller or anything, does a really good job. So all in all, decent machine, especially considering the price. Most machines in a 20-watt class that have the speed capabilities and everything of this machine, you're looking at closer to $1,000. So I think with that considered, especially if you can get the package with the honeycomb and if you need it, the roller as well, it's not a bad little setup. So something to consider, and one of those things, if you have somebody on your Christmas list that's looking at getting into laser engraving, I'm trying to do a couple of reviews of some entry-level machines between now and Christmas to kind of help you guys out, because I know not everybody wants to jump in it, right out of the gate with $2,000 worth of an investment. But, this is a usable machine with limitations. Like I said, no limit switches, but to do a lot of cutouts and a lot of engraving, it'll still do a lot of the same things. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below. I try to check out machines and equipment and techniques that are relevant to what we do with laser engraving, CNCs, and even a little touch into the 3D printer world. But if you haven't already, hit that button. And till next time, guys, be safe and have a good day.